here for Cooktops.
We're at Van Meter Visitor Fest.
Yeah, so if you're 12 or under here, your admission is free.
Okay. Carnival Festival, there is a walking tour, and we are doing that right now. We are currently walking down the road to get to the old abandoned coal mine.
Welcome at any time to be out on this road, as long as you stay on the road. Said it sounded like Satan and a regiment of his imps were coming up from hell to wage battle on Van Meter. What about after 1903? Well, there were numerous sightings after that. You're welcome to stop by my booth and talk to me about all of them, but people would come out here, usually teenagers and college-age kids, because they thought the brickyard was haunted. Bricks would be thrown by their own source. They'd see shadowy figures lurking about. They had no idea about the visitor story, so they blamed it on the haunted brickyard.
What role did you play in the founding of the Van Meter Fest?
Great question. Well, I think when our book came out, we said people want to not just read about it or watch it on television, they want to experience it. They want to go on the tour, see it for themselves. So let's put a festival where people can actually come here and follow in the footsteps of those who actually tried to capture it.
Have you been down to the old brick factory where the beast was trapped?
When we first came here, the owner at the time brought us out there on the property and showed us where the mine used to be, and said when he was your age, he didn't like playing around the mine. It always gave him an eerie feeling. He didn't like it at all. And this guy was older and didn't believe in monsters, but he was really frightened of where that mine was.
Do you have any examples of when the Van Meter visitor was spotted in years past, when it was supposedly trapped in the mine?
Yeah, so it was spotted back then by almost the entire town from what we know. But they didn't give a lot of details to what color it might have been, what color the light was, what the skin tone was, nothing. Just that it was this giant 8-foot bat creature. So I think part of it, not knowing, is part of the beauty of the mystery, is that we might never know.
Well, what color do you think the Van Meter visitor is most likely?
So why did you do all of this in the first place?
That is a great question. So I started doing this podcast because, one, I was kind of bored during the pandemic. Two, my buddy Andrew invited me to a documentary filming in Des Moines about winged cryptids, and he had me ask the questions off camera, and I realized I really like interviewing. And I really like cryptids and Bigfoot and stuff, so I started because of that. And then also I realized that a lot of people that have seen Bigfoot never have a place to share what they've encountered, so I want to give that service and be that place where people can share what they've experienced.
I see you have some plaster footprints here. What are these all about?
All right, I'm glad you asked. So I have a few footprints here. So the first one, this is a copy of one of the footprints from the Patterson-Gimlin film, filming in 1967. This is from Mount Hood National Forest from March 2025, and this is a footprint of a Bigfoot, and if you look closely right there, it looks like there are almost like fingerprints. They're called dermal ridges, right? Now this is when I was out in the same area in Mount Hood National Forest in July of this year. We found a handprint in the mud. So imagine that this these are fingers and they're reaching into the mud, right? So we found this handprint in the mud next to a few interesting things. We found a piece of bark 2 feet long with mud, a 6-inch pile of mud, and then another 6-inch pile of mud, and then a stack of picked ferns about this long, but stacked like this. And also about a few tops of trees that were kind of pushed into the ground about 10 yards away from where this was. So really, really weird area.
What other cryptids do you do besides Bigfoot?
That's a great question. So to tell you the truth, right now I focus on Bigfoot because there are so many people. I get emails, about 5 to 6 emails every day of people that are trying to share. Now, other cryptids I do like, just because I am so close to this area. I do like the Van Meter Visitor because it's a local cryptid for me. So it's always good to support the festival and kind of go on the walking tour and stuff like that. So I would say Bigfoot and the Van Meter Visitor.
Have you seen any cryptids yourself?
Yes. So 2 years ago, I went to a festival out in Oak Ridge, Oregon. And after the festival, I had gotten a few insect bites on my legs, and I had to go to the hospital to get treated for that. So I was like, I don't really feel so good, but I'm gonna go get a burger and drive around the reservoir. And what happened when I was driving, as I drove by a pine tree with some vines on it, and I saw what looked like to be a 7 to 8 foot tall Sasquatch in the vines, but then it disappeared. So that was either me seeing a Bigfoot or having a weird experience with the antibiotics that were in my system, right? So that's the closest I think I've gotten.
Well, you guys are Midnight Spotters. Is that like a podcast or search thing you do?
We're a Bigfoot research group out of southern Minnesota.
So, do you like just do just Bigfoot, or do you do some of the other ones, like the Skunky or the Yeti or any of that?
We do pretty much anything cryptid, but our forte, our main research is Bigfoot. We do dilly-dally with the paranormal, but anything cryptid undiscovered, we do dilly-dally and we try to research that. But Bigfoot is our forte. That's our main objective is research Bigfoot.
What's your favorite cryptid that isn't Bigfoot or Bigfoot clone?
Geez. I would say between aliens and Dogman.
Yeah,
Alien
alien or dogman.
A Dogman? You've heard of Dogman?
Yes.
Okay. That'd probably be the other one I'm kind of interested in.
Yeah.
And what do you guys do? What do you guys do on the Van Meter Monster itself?
We come here usually to the event to learn. That's something new still for us. We've investigated and walked around the area and try to get as much information as we can. But we're still learning.
What do you guys know about the Van Meter Monster?
Well, I know it happened in 1903 and it terrorized the town for about a week. And this bat-winged creature, supposedly, they chased it down to the mines out of here where I guess they blew up the mines and that's where it still stays today.
Yeah.
But they still report it around the area. So something's out there mysterious.
So, have you guys seen any cryptids yourself?
I have ran into a Sasquatch in 97 and 98. Had a lot of wood knocks, howls, growls. I have seen mysterious stuff in the sky, and I have seen a ghost when I was 6 and a half, an apparition. April, she has seen.
Yeah, I seen Bigfoot in Georgia, and it was at my timeshare that I was at. We parked into our parking lot, and we got our cabin, there and opened it up. And it smelled skunky, garbage. It was awful. Going in, thunderstorm and everything. My boyfriend at the time went, took a shower and hung out, and came back, to see me later. But anyway, I heard the shutters go back and forth, boom, boom, boom. And I was kind of spooked because it was storming out and it was windy and all that. So anyway, it flew open a little bit, and I seen this big, hairy, black creature that was wet with red eyes and just staring at me, and trying to get the shutters to go more and break open. And the one just kept on going. Well, he came out, and here it was. He looked at me and goes, "You're awfully quiet. What happened to you? You know, you're not the same." I said, "Well, I'm just tired from the long road trip." And he, didn't say much. He went outside because he heard me being spooked with the shutters and shut them. And evidently, the Bigfoot was gone.
Are you guys the only midnight watchers in the group?
There's a few of us. Some are part-time watchers because they got busy lives.
Yeah.
It's mainly me and April.
Yeah.
We go out quite a bit. We just came out of the Wisconsin woods in central Wisconsin, where we did an expedition last weekend, and I was a guest speaker at that event. We did have we got a whoop, had a couple wood knocks, some Apache through forest, and found a couple structures. But it's just mainly me and April and a handful coming in and out. We are expanding.
Why did you start all of this stuff in the first place?
The paranormal investigation equipment. We started this because my wife was in paranormal investigation and she wanted equipment that was more affordable. So we essentially created our own equipment that would be more affordable for entry-level people to get into.
Okay. And another question: Have you had any paranormal or cryptid experiences of your own?
Yes.
Many paranormal experiences. I've been doing this about 8 years, so a lot of places, a lot of experiences. Nothing really with cryptids, but I could go on for quite some time. All the paranormal things I've experienced.
Can you name one key example, like one big one? Just name your biggest one.
My biggest one. What's the biggest one? There was, we were in an abandoned building with permission, and a huge place, and I was walking through, and I knew I was by myself, and I went around a corner, and I heard something say very loudly, "Hello," and I was convinced someone else was in the building with me, and I was with one other person, and we went and we cleared that entire building, and there was no one there. All of the doors were locked, but it was definitely a loud voice. That was probably more scary than anything else I've ever come across.
What do you guys know about the Van Meter Visitor?
Well, we are actually learning. This is our first year here, so we went on the night tour last night, so we learned a lot about the Van Meter Visitor last night. And it sounds like there's a lot of people that don't know a lot of information about the visitor, that there's a lot of different stories about what it looked like and what color it was and what shape it was, and there's just a lot of unknowns.
So last night after the tour that we had just finished, we have a vehicle that has the automatic dimming headlights. And we drove down to the gravel road where the mine was, and the automatic high beams were on, and as soon as our front tires hit the gravel road, they shut off. The automatic high beams shut off. We drove all the way to the end, turned around, came back, and as soon as we got off of the gravel, they started working.
How would you say the Van Meter Visitor relates to all this paranormal equipment?
To the equipment, I'm not entirely sure. There's kind of two different things, because we're looking for, with the paranormal equipment, we're looking for stuff you really can't see. So we're looking for entities or spirits to set the equipment off. Whereas the visitor or cryptids, you're actually looking for the actual creature. So it's kind of a two different train of thoughts. So our equipment really doesn't work for the cryptids, but it helps us for sure with paranormal investigations.
In a contained area more with the paranormal stuff. We're in buildings or in locations where the cryptids, you're just out in the wide open.
Right. And so, in terms of like where
Why do you do this in the first place?
Okay, well, we're from Kansas. And I'm just helping my buddy who I've been friends with since kindergarten. And he designs shirts like local haunt shirts, and he does cryptid stuff. And I just like to come to these, so I just tag along with him. But we do stuff like for special places, like in Kansas, there's a place called the Sally House that's really haunted. And so we made a shirt for that, and just different places that people tell us about, things like that.
Do you have any favorite cryptids or hauntings or anything of yours?
That's a great question. I do have a favorite cryptid. I, being from Kansas, love Sinkhole Sam. And not too many people know about him, but he's this big serpent-like creature that was at Inman Lake. And they call him Sam because two guys saw him, and the guy named Sam shot at him with a gun. That's why it's called Sinkhole Sam. But he's our Kansas cryptid. And he's lovable, but we're trying to get the word out, so thank you for asking.
Have you seen any cryptids?
I haven't seen a cryptid, but one time this riverboat that was from like a museum washed up on the shore at Leavenworth, and we went into it like when it was on the river, and we heard voices and saw shadows, but no cryptid. I don't know what that was about. And we thought it was the police, so we got scared. But it wasn't. There's some dogs barking, but that's my only ghost.
Okay, why did you start all of this in the first place?
Well, I went to art school, and one of the assignments we had was to make trading cards, and I thought, what better to do 18 trading cards on than cryptids? And then after I did those, I was like, I want them to be really silly, really fun, and I just sort of really got into the whole cryptid thing, and I was researching for that, and I thought it was so fascinating, all the stories behind all the cryptids. And so it just went and spiraled, and now I just do a lot of cryptid art, and I'm making a webcomic about cryptids, and it's enjoyable. People really like it, so.
So, of all the trading cards you do, which one is your favorite?
Oh, that's a really tough question. I am a big fan of. I need to look at it. I'm blanking on. Oh, the Braxton one. The Flatwoods Monster. I like the design I did for her card. I think it's really nice. And, who doesn't like a weird potential alien creature?
What do you know about the Van Meter Visitor?
Well, I know that around 120 years ago, it was seen in this town, and it terrorized them for about 5 nights. And that it potentially lives in a mine shaft, which is very fascinating to me. I don't know. I mean, personally, I haven't had any encounters, but I know there are people here who maybe have. And I think the most fascinating thing about the Van Meter Visitor is the light on its head. It's not, to me, when I draw my cryptids, they're kind of just silly and fun. So to me, the Van Meter Visitor wasn't necessarily malicious. It was just shining its light in everybody's windows and being kind of annoying, which I think is kind of silly.
Have you seen any cryptids yourself?
Personally, I have not, but I do know a friend whose grandparents saw Mothman. They lived in West Virginia in the 60s, and they saw him by the bridge. So I thought that was really fascinating. Personally, no, I would like to, though.
Each the feature before we find him, before we find him.
I'm going to look for it.
Why did you do this in the first place?
Sure. So I got into investigating anomalous phenomena due to a series of paranormal events in my own life when I was a very young child. So that mostly involved a series of nighttime visitation events, which at the time I found terrifying, but by the time I was an adult, I had realized that if I was going to be hurt, I would have been hurt by then. And so it became less scary. And in trying to understand these things, I was led to read books by people like John Keel and Whitley Strieber, Brad Steiger, and I found a lot of comfort in that. And as a result, I wanted to try to help people in the same way that I've been helped by writing books about their experiences that maybe somebody else can read, and it'll make them feel like they're not alone in the same way that I felt when I was a kid.
So, do you have any certain experiences that has happened to you that just, stuck with you?
Sure. So in my early 20s, I had moved back home briefly with my parents, and I went to bed one night. Everything seemed perfectly normal, but all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, I found myself suddenly awake. There was no obvious reason, at least not immediately apparent, for me to be awake at that time, but I could tell that my perspective seemed skewed. Like, I wasn't paralyzed or anything, and I could move, so I immediately started looking around to see why I was so suddenly, wide awake. And I realized very quickly that I seemed to be floating several feet above my bed. And when I looked to my left, I saw a figure standing there, completely black, like the shadowy silhouette of a man standing next to me. And in that moment, I realized that I wasn't supposed to be awake for that, or at least that's the feeling that I got there. And so this thing, I'm looking at it, it reaches its hand out and places its hand on my chest. And I interpreted that as being comforting. I don't really know what its motivation was, but that was my interpretation of it. And when it put its hand on my chest, I was lowered back down to my bed, and it just suddenly vanished. And I found myself lying there on top of my covers, wondering what the heck had just happened. And I thought about it for a while, realized again I wasn't hurt, and so I didn't seem to be in any danger or anything. And so eventually I just went back to sleep. But that's the kind of experiences I've had.
Right? Why did you do all this stuff in the first place?
I started this out because I watched the Mothman Prophecies movie, and it piqued my interest because it's not that far from where I live, a couple hours away. So I had to go down there to see it for myself, and I make maps anyways, and I just decided to start putting this stuff on maps, and I thought other people might enjoy it, so the maps were born out of that experience.
Have you ever had any weird encounters of your own?
I have had a couple of weird encounters, nothing too crazy, but I was at a tunnel in Ohio that's haunted called the Moonville Tunnel. And there's a ghost there, and it's a man who got beheaded. And he's still looking for his head to this day, and he carried a lantern because he was on the back of the train. He's known as the Lantern Man back before electricity. So my friend took a picture of me, and later on we looked at the photo because it was the old kind of develop your film, and there was this bright light behind me that we could not explain. So I think the Lantern Man might have been there behind me.
Have you looked for any cryptid things yourself, or do you just map it?
I do look for cryptids. Obviously I live near Cincinnati, and we have the Frogman. But mostly I look for ghosts, and I've been in some ghost hunting groups over the years. I don't currently participate anymore. I've kind of exhausted that in myself, that I don't really feel the need to go out and look, but I still love researching it. I still love going to places that are haunted and just experience the vibe that is there, and see what it feels like to be there.
Until next time, Van Meter Visitor Festival, we're out of here. Goodbye. The adults get all the cool stuff.